Good evening. First, can everyone hear me okay if I don't use the microphone? Yeah. All right, perfect. My name is Courtney Coons. I am one of the counselors here at Susquehannock High School. I am in charge of students with the last names S through Z. With me tonight is Mrs. Kate Miklos. She has students with last names A through D. Mrs. O'Connor Rudman is in the back. She has students with last names E through K. And Mr. Shervington has students with last names L through R. So welcome, thank you for attending tonight. I do want to give a special welcome to our veterans. I know this is your special day, so if you are a veteran, special thank you for coming out tonight. We are going to be doing a couple of different things tonight. We're going to have a presentation about scholarships in general, and then Mrs. O'Connor Rudman is going to be talking specifically about Dollars for Scholars. After our two presentations, if you would like to stay, please do. We are going to have the last part of our evening until 8 o'clock for students and their parents to work on anything that you would like to work on. So if you want to work on your Dollars for Scholars profile and start that process, you can. We will have somebody from our Dollars for Scholars Foundation coming tonight to help answer questions if you run into questions. If you are still working on the FAFSA and you had some questions about that and you just want some time to finalize whatever you need to finalize for that, we would be happy to answer questions about that as well. But we're very glad that you could join us tonight. So these are the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to talk about the types of financial aid, go over the kinds of scholarships and where to find them. We'll be talking about how you apply for scholarships. We'll be talking about the College Board Opportunity Scholarship, and then we're going to talk about our local opportunity, which is the Southern York County School District Dollars for Scholars program. All right, so first we're going to talk about the types of financial aid. So up here you see that there are 4 different types that we're going to be talking about. And seniors, this may seem a little repetitive to you because probably during your senior meeting you went over some of these things with your counselor. So there are 4 different main types of financial aid, or 4 different things that we like to define for you. Grants are money that you do not have to pay back. These are the best kind. They are usually provided by the state or federal government, and when you fill out that FAFSA and submit it, grants is one of the things that you will find out if you're eligible for when you get back your student aid report. Moving over to loans. Loans are, unfortunately, do have to be paid back. That is money that can come from different sources, and they can accrue interest depending on the type of loan that you have. Student loans are not necessarily always a bad thing. I know a lot of people, their goal is to graduate college without any student loan debt, and for some people that works out just fine. But if you are someone who, when you get back your student aid report or you realize that you need to take out some student loans, it is not the end of the world. I myself am a product of student loans. I was still able to eat and live and do life with those. Work study down in the bottom left corner is a federal program. This is when a student can earn money to pay for school by working part-time at the university or college that they choose to go to. The earnings can go back into your educational expenses. For example, I worked in the admissions office of my college while I was in school. I earned a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks, I can't remember, it's been a little while. But I earned that money and I could put that towards whatever I needed to. So it could go towards my living expenses, it could go towards my books, it could go towards whatever I needed it to go towards. And it was really nice because my job then worked with me each semester to schedule me around my classes. So I didn't have to worry about giving an employer a different schedule every semester. I just turned in my schedule to my job and they scheduled me, and all was pretty easy and fun. Tonight though, we are going to talk about scholarships. Scholarships is free money, and they can come from a variety of different sources, and they each can have different requirements or expectations. And so that's what we're going to focus on tonight. We did hold a financial aid night presentation in September. Some of you may have joined us for that. That was when we had somebody come in from an outside university and talk about financial aid, and specifically the FAFSA and the financial aid that you can get back from that. If you are not here, or if you'd like a refresher, the presentation is available on our website, and you can find it at the link right there. Also, if you are someone who likes infographics, you like pictures to navigate, we do have one. It's an annual infographic and explains all of that as well. And again, that is available on our counseling department website. There's also one on our Canvas page. So students, if you have gotten onto your Canvas page for the counseling department, you would be able to find it there as well.
So now we're going to discuss the different kinds of scholarships or reasons one might be able to apply for scholarships. I'm sorry, am I projecting enough? Oftentimes when we meet with students, especially juniors, sometimes even sophomores may say, I'm really interested in scholarships, but I don't know what the kinds are, or what's a reason I can earn a scholarship or get a scholarship. So you can kind of break them down into these 8 categories. There may be a few more here, kind of niche, different reasons for scholarships, but just going to provide a brief overview for you of these scholarships. And in your handout, while we won't display those slides, there are some additional breakdowns for these types of scholarships. So the first type is related to your major. So essentially, if I have a student who wants to be a nursing major, oftentimes when I use this example, I speak about nursing and computer science because those are 2 of the big 3 right now, along with engineering in terms of major. If I have a son and a daughter, one wants to go into nursing, wants to go into computer science, the child who wants to go into computer science cannot apply for that nursing scholarship. The child who wants to go into nursing cannot apply for that computer science scholarship. It's specific to what you want to major in. Second category is skill related. This is probably the one people hear about most often. You hear about, hey, so-and-so got an athletic scholarship to play at this university. That is based upon their skill in their respective sport. What people sometimes don't know is that these skills can translate off of the field or off of the court as well, such as earning a full scholarship for playing a certain instrument or having a unique talent. To kind of convey this point, one example I use with students all the time is magic. Like, college is not going to give you a full scholarship for magic, but like a local organization, like a local magician's organization, not saying that exists here, but like a local magician's organization may say, hey, we want to pay back your love of magic because if we can show other people your love of magic is rewarded by having a certain amount of skill in magic, that might encourage other people, younger people to do it, saying, hey, my skill and love of magic can help me pay for school. Related to employer, this falls into 2 designations. First would be students. If you are currently working, which we know a lot of our students are, it never hurts to ask, is there a scholarship program for high school students who are about to go to college at your place of employment? Places I know that have programs include Burger King, Chipotle, Taco Bell. However, this also extends to parents. Parents, you have the ability to ask your employer, typically HR, is there a scholarship available for children of people who work at this place of employment? Again, examples that I am aware of include Home Depot, Burger King, and McCormick locally. Special circumstances. These are related to things that essentially may be out of one's control. To kind of elaborate, this one scholarship that we always advertise in our scholarship bulletin is the Hope Scholarship. That is a scholarship available for someone who's going to college who has a family member who unfortunately has gone through a battle with cancer. That's a special circumstance that applies to you that makes you eligible to apply for that scholarship. Other special circumstances that may exist may be like ever experiencing homelessness or a unique family structure such as being divorced or a blended family or something like that. Disability related, these can be things you can see or you cannot see. And the example I typically go to is my first year here, I had a young lady apply for a scholarship based on where the designation was the individual had to have diabetes. And based on, she had to write an essay on how being diabetic had an impact on her everyday life and kind of what that's taught her. And she got a $5,000 scholarship by completing that essay and that application. But beyond that, it could be something you can't see, like ADHD. or if you're a student who maybe has an IEP or a 504, or it can be things it can be a physical disability as well. Related to institution, if you take nothing away from this, this is the one you really want to focus on. This is the big boy, if you will. Seniors, we've kind of already conveyed this to you, and as you've already been doing your applications, you're probably already well aware of this. Juniors, this is key. This is probably where most of your scholarship money will come from, honestly. As you apply to different institutions and complete your FAFSA so they can determine the amount of financial aid they can give you, institutions are going to then tell you how much need and merit-based aid they can provide you, included in that being scholarships. Many colleges have what we call a sticker price. So going to school X may cost $40,000 a year on paper. Going to school Y may cost $30,000 a year on paper. However, based on my achievements in high school or what school X or Y believe I provide to them as a student, school X may say, well, we can give you $15,000 by way of financial aid, including scholarships. The second school may say we can only give you $5,000. But generally speaking, those are the larger amounts that you are going to be getting in terms of scholarships. So while we're going to encourage you to research and look at scholarships, especially now as seniors and juniors, we're going to encourage you to look at scholarships that you can maybe apply for next year. Seniors, juniors, these are the ones you really want to kind of look up and see what scholarships are available for the schools you're applying to. Cultural identity related scholarships, these can fall into many different things based on different designations. Your religion, your race, your gender, your ethnicity, your orientation. The example I love to use with students is, by a show of hands, do we have anybody here who's left-handed? There are left-handed scholarships available that fall under this designation. I'm aware, though I've never had a student apply for it, pretty sure in Pennsylvania there's a $500 left-handed scholarship. And then finally, you have from local groups. I'm just going to say it, we have an amazing foundation. So when I talk about local groups, I'm primarily referring to Dollars for Scholars, which Mrs. Miklos and Mrs. O'Connor-Rudman will touch upon. But that also can include local organizations like local businesses, local community service agencies, local churches, so on and so forth. And one of the great things about local groups is instead of applying against a large applicant pool, you're applying locally. You're applying against other people in Southern York County or York County.
Okay, so where can you go to find some of these scholarships? In addition to looking up some on your college websites that you're looking at applying to, or maybe you've already been accepted to, there are several websites out there. We do provide some listed in our slideshow tonight. Also, I'll talk a little bit about another place that we provide them as well, but in referencing these, I know that number 4, FastWeb, and I'm fairly certain the other 3 counselors highlight this when meeting with their seniors as well. And this is actually one that juniors can get started with also. It is a free website where you go on and you create a profile, and it's going to ask you a bunch of questions, and some may seem odd because they may be trying to figure out, are you left-handed? Are you under 5 foot? Like, there's scholarships. Do you have one blue eye and one green eye? There's scholarships for everything. So that's why you're going to be asked some of those questions that you're like, what? But the nice thing about FastWeb, they do the searching for you. So in creating your free profile and answering all of their questions, you will get emails. Don't use your school email because that probably would be blocked. From different places saying, hey, you may qualify for this scholarship, but just keep in mind, sometimes, things get through that you're like, wait, this doesn't apply to me. So just be mindful that you are reading the ones that they highlight and send to you, but a lot of the difficulty in applying for scholarships is finding ones that are worthwhile and that you're eligible for. One that I also want to highlight on the bottom, Unigo. So this is one that can be a great resource to cross-reference whether or not a scholarship you find is valid. So You may not want to create an account with Unigo because it may fill up your inbox with a bunch of spam. But if you find one on, a different site and you want to see is it on Unigo, or if you find one on Unigo and just searching and you want to see if you can find it somewhere else, we encourage you to apply to the same scholarship but in a different location, just so you're not getting all that spam. So another place you can go, there's probably like 2 pages worth of websites on the back of our scholarship bulletin. Every month we have hard copies that we keep available in the counseling office. It's actually on the outside of the counseling office, so you don't even have to go in. Right now it appears to be, what is that, salmon?
Salmon color, yeah.
So every month the color will change. That means that it's been updated. So they actually hang on the window in the hallway side. So students can just walk by, pick one up, or you can go to on the counseling website. So if you would go to the Susquehanna High School and then click on counseling, down there you can see the little red arrow where you click on financial aid and scholarships, and then SHS scholarship bulletin. You can see all of the different ones posted so far this year. The list will get longer. We basically build off of what's already there. We will remove the ones that have already expired or we've passed the deadline, so you don't have to worry about sifting through those. So that's a great place that you can go and reference as well. So I think in the very beginning, Ms. Coons mentioned College Board Opportunity Scholarships. So this is something that does have deadlines attached to each task, but there are 6 different tasks that College Board is looking at. Any student in here who has taken the PSATs, taken the SATs, or has been in an AP course should already have a College Board account. So in there, and honestly, if you just go to the opportunity.collegeboard.org, you'll then be prompted to log into your account. There's a way to record these tasks: building your college list, practicing for the SAT, exploring scholarships, which we're highlighting tonight, strengthening your college list, completing the FAFSA, applying to colleges. These are things that if you are going off to college, you are going to be doing. If you take the time to go into your College Board account and indicate that you have done these, you are essentially entered into a lottery. For building your college list, if you indicate you did that, your name gets thrown into a lottery for a $500 drawing. Now they don't pick just one, they pick hundreds of them. Certain ones they pick over 400, other ones they pick over 1,000. I think it goes into more detail when you're on the site looking at that. If you do all 6, you then get entered for a drawing for $40,000 because you've completed your journey. And again, they don't just draw one for that, okay? But keep in mind, these are available to students nationwide, so it's a lot of students probably that their name's getting thrown into the pot. But again, if you're doing these things anyway, you might as well take the couple extra minutes and go in and just get your name thrown into the drawing. Now what? I didn't know I was going over this slide.
I can do it. I messed it up.
Let me see what's on this slide. Okay, so we gave you a bunch of information. We provided you a bunch of sites. We provided you information on where you can find more sites. Make sure that if you decide you're just going to go to Google, that you are not applying to a scam. If anything asks you for money, it's a scam. You should not be paying anything or anyone to help you get money, okay?
Mrs. Nicola, can I interject there?
Sure.
There is one site that you do pay for that is legitimate. We as a counseling office will not advertise that. We don't necessarily agree with it, but I do know there are some families within the community who have talked about it and kind of raised that question with us. But just because there have been within the college ranks some legitimacy questions with that, as well as kind of the impact it could have on other scholarships, we do not advertise it. And just because we do not advertise it, I'm not going to say its name, but there is one legitimate website that does require payment. We, however, do not advertise it.
So you can always come down to the counseling office and ask us, hey, I'm getting emails about this, or I got this in the mail, or I Googled this. Have you heard of this before? And then we will take a look at it and see if it's something that we feel is legitimate or not. Anything that's listed on the SHS Scholarship Bulletin has been reviewed and verified as valid. So those ones are good to go. Now with those, you will see that a lot of the criteria on the Scholarship Bulletin, and even those that you may come across in some of these other websites and databases, are strictly for seniors. One of the eligibility criteria is having to be a high school senior. Often though, those same scholarships happen annually. So even if you are a junior, you can get an idea of what is going to be out there for you. There are scholarships available on our bulletin and out there as well that are like 9 through 12, or even some are like 8 through 12 or 4 through 12. So there are different scholarships available, so it is worth the time to take a look and see if there's anything you can be working on now. Students tend to avoid the scholarships with essays, but the ones with essays tend to be the ones that are more worthy. They award more oftentimes, and less people are gonna do them, because by the time you're a senior, you have research papers, you're maybe in AP classes, you're doing dual enrollment, you have one foot out the door. The last thing you want to do is write another essay, but it can be worth it. So maybe you already have an essay that you can tweak a little bit and adjust to fulfill whatever the prompt is. But definitely don't just be like, oh, criteria, essay, next. Definitely take your time to look it over and see if it's something that you feel like, you know what, I could write something good and really have a chance of getting this money. Great. Anything
else? So before we transition to the part of our presentation with Dollars for Scholars, does anybody just kind of have any general questions about the information about scholarships in general that was just presented?
There was a scholarship based on the major that you wanted to choose. If you thought that you wanted to go into college with a particular major and then you change your mind, do they count it against you?
I can answer that because it happened to me. So when I went into college, I went in as a communications major. After my first year, I realized that was not what I wanted to do, and I switched my major. And unfortunately, I did lose my scholarship for that. So those that are tied to majors, if you would switch your major or you would change your mind, that money wouldn't be coming to you anymore.
Miss?
Did I have to pay it back? I did not have to pay it back, no, because I was a communications major for that year that I got the money, but I could not renew it for my other 3 years. Good question.
When you were talking about related to institution, does that one have anything to do with your the parent income, or do any of these have to do with parent income?
In some capacities, if they're need-based scholarships, typically, often need-based money is going to come in the way of grants and other sort of funding, but if there are need-based scholarships tied to that respective school, if they say, hey, we really want this student, but based on the information filled out on the FAFSA, et cetera, they may struggle to come here, but we really want them, then that may be a qualification, but typically that need-based aid isn't going to fall under the scholarship dynamic. They'll find other ways to make that happen before deferring to a scholarship under need. This is Betsy. Sorry.
Is college work study in any way tied to the FAFSA? Do you have to have filled out FAFSA or show college financial needs calculated in order to get college work study?
Yes, typically colleges do require that the FAFSA is completed in order for students to be eligible for work study. And each institution does operate work study at different basis, so every institution does it a little bit differently. So that would just be making sure you have that conversation with the institution. But typically, yes, that is a requirement to place with FAFSA, and then on financial aid packages, that's typically something that you can accept or decline along with your loans and other aid that the college would provide you.
Do you have any information on loan servicing agencies and ones that perhaps should be avoided, or are you able to find out who your servicing agency is going to be before you sign?
So I will say, while I like to refer to us as generalists, we gather a lot of general information from different places for things like financial aid scholarships. I would say defer to our financial aid presentation from September as we bring in an expert who can better answer those questions. On that our particular website with financial aid information, we defer to FIA, Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. Our representative for York County is Deanna Brown. She is amazing in terms of helping with questions about financial aid. But then many questions similar to that were answered in the financial aid presentation, which the handouts and the video from that presentation is available on our website and on our YouTube channel.
When you completed the FAFSA, you submitted an application to school, you get the response that whatever you're accepted into school. Does the FAFSA or the scholarship and grants and everything that the school would be offering usually come with that? When do you find out what options you're getting?
Sure. Again, it really depends on the institution. I know institutions are really trying to connect financial aid packages with acceptances, so you're getting them together. When I applied to college, the FAFSA didn't even open up until January, so we got our acceptances, and then we waited several months to get financial aid package. But really, because the FAFSA opens up October now, typically colleges do try to bring those two together. So they will give your student your acceptance and then also share that financial aid package. But possibly it could be a little bit of a delay depending on the institution and when that student applied, as well as when they completed the FAFSA. So it is really encouraged to make sure you complete the FAFSA if you haven't already. Any other questions before we look at dollars for scholars? So juniors, thank you for coming tonight. You don't necessarily have to stay through this portion if you don't want to. Will be recorded if you want to touch base later. I'm going to be walking step by step through the application and profile for Dollars for Scholars, and then we're going to turn it over to Mr. Mark Grill from the foundation who's here, and then have it be kind of a work session for seniors that are here. So juniors, do not feel bad if you need to sneak out and you don't want to stay for this part. We will make sure that we touch base with you next year to help you out to fill out this application. But thank you for coming.
We didn't even get that far. We made our ID. Like we signed this. No, actually, no. No, I think that's the part that we got mixed up. I think we created an account and then we didn't know where to go.
Okay, so I'm going to go through this somewhat quickly because you have the handout with you. So you have access to each of these slides, and I really think the slides guide you through how to create a profile, but I wanted to just touch base on a couple things and then focus on some of the most frequently asked questions that we get as counselors here about our specific application. So students need to create an account. They'll create a profile, and so this will be walking you through where do you find that link, how do you create that profile, and so we're going to skip to slide 7. Let's keep going. Right here. So you will, after you create your profile, Dollars for Scholars will send you an email with a link to your login information and a temporary password. And so then you'll reset your password. Students, please make sure you put this information in a safe place. Every single year, students ask us what their login information is, their passwords, and we do not have that information. So they need to make sure that they keep that in a safe place along with all of their other logins and passwords to college applications and FAFSA and all that good stuff. The dashboard is kind of the main page once you've logged in. And right at the top, there's going to be the My Information with a big bar, and it will tell the student how far they are in terms of completing the profile. And so we're going to walk through the profile. I'll take a pause for a second. The Dollars for Scholars application, there's kind of two parts. The first part, the profile, is what students can work on right now. And then the actual applying for scholarships, that's what's going to take place in January and February. So we're going to walk through the steps to create the profile first. So the profile has progress bars under each page. So the red will be that you've not started, the yellow is that you started but didn't complete that, and then the green means that you've completed that page. Items will have 2 asterisks if they're required, and there's a kind of legend to tell you what all these things are required. But it is a lot of information. They'll ask your address, your phone number, contact information, and students need to just work through each of these pages to complete their profile. You can skip through. You can skip through. All right. Completing your profile 100% does not mean that you've applied to scholarships. So again, this goes back to, there's 2 parts, the completing the profile and then applying to scholarships. So some of the things that the profile will include is GPA, there's rank information, test scores, extracurriculars, employment, and then there's a document page. Some scholarships may require students to upload additional documents, which I'll touch base on in a little bit. And then one more. And then there are some need-based scholarships. So the need-based scholarships require financial information. Students can either provide the EFC from the FAFSA, the Estimated Family Contribution, or students can put their parents' information in, so parents can provide more detailed information. So there is a financial component to Dollars for Scholars, and this is really important that students complete this and do not leave this blank. The next 2 pages are both essays. So there's a goals and aspiration essay, and there's an unusual circumstances essay. We as counselors get a lot of questions about the unusual circumstances essay in particular. This could be an opportunity for students to talk about different things that maybe impacted them throughout high school, whether that was divorce or they moved schools, there was an illness in the family, any sort of adversity. Every single family is unique, and every single student has had to overcome their own unique challenges. So a lot of times students will be like, well, I'm just normal, nothing special about me, and that's not true. So really talking with your family, thinking about what has impacted you the last 4 years. Obviously, we've all collectively been impacted by a pandemic, so that might be something to talk about. But these essays are really important. Again, every year I tell students that there are students that just skip these, and that's not good. So we really want to make sure that students take the time and write these essays for the Dollars for Scholars profile. There's going to be a section for students to submit their transcript information, and there is a pink piece of paper that you also picked up tonight that, again, walks you through some of the steps that I'm walking through again. And I'm going to highlight this several times, but for this section, please include, and you're going to write Samantha Whitty, who's our incredible administrative assistant. She's the one that enters all the transcript information. So students, please do not enter your school counselor. Please enter Samantha Whitty there. So I will touch on that a few more times to hopefully make sure students do that. Some scholarships do require a recommendation. Some scholarships specify whether that needs to be a teacher or a coach, a counselor. And so again, I'll touch base on that a little bit when we get to the application portion. But this will be where that is held in the profile. Alrighty, so I know that's a whirlwind, and it's just because we want to give you the time to actually sit through and walk through it, because I know I'm a person, and if I do it, it makes a lot more sense. And if you follow along the PowerPoint that we provided tonight, that is a clear big picture to help you walk through those steps. So that's part one, and that's what students should be working on right now. Do not wait until January 7th when the application officially opens. But that is when students can apply for scholarships, and this is the part two part of it. So every year, students tell us, you know, I'll do that when it opens up, but if they work on the profile now, over the holiday breaks coming up, then when January comes around, it's just less they have to do, and they can really focus on just applying for the scholarships during that month window when the Dollars for Scholars application is open. So when the application opens in January, again, January 7th is the opening this year. There'll be some additional questions that they will ask, like, did you attend Friendship Elementary? Or are you on the football team? So there's specific questions that they'll ask students for, just to gather some more information from them. And then it will start matching students to scholarships. The scholarships will, the Donut Stop Flash Mob Dance Scholarship there. You can see, if you view it, they'll have some more information about it. Some scholarships might require some additional questions, or again, those references that are there. So they may require some extra steps on students that they need to go through each scholarship to make sure that they're completing all the steps for that scholarship. And then when they do that, then that apply button comes up. That's when they officially apply for the scholarship. So it's not until they see that apply button and actually click it that they've applied for that scholarship that they could be eligible for. On the Dollars for Scholars page, there is a help button at the bottom left if you need some technical support. They have some frequently asked questions there. So that's kind of the Dollars for Scholars in a nutshell. I want to just take a quick moment then to go through some specific Southern New York County School District Foundation questions that we often get, because Dollars for Scholars is a big national initiative, and we have a specific chapter here. So some of the most popular questions that we get, and I can skip through a couple, is weighted GPA, asking students, they'll ask how your school operates, and so making sure that students do check, yes, we do weight GPAs, yes, enter your weighted GPA, it's going to be higher than your unweighted, and then we have a 4.0 for the GPA scale. So again, I wanted to make sure we included this just because this is the most frequently asked question I think we probably get, and it is listed in that pink paper as well. We do rank at Susquehanna High School, so students are going to say yes, and then the integer, and then again, the next page as well will ask about transcripts, and students will put in Samantha Whitty's contact information. Another common question we get is about the essay word limits. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no word limit or count necessarily for the essays. They don't need to be novels, but if students, write a nice essay with an introduction paragraph, 3 body paragraphs to conclusion, everything that you've been taught in your English classes, that will really cover everything that they're looking for. So it does not need to be a novel, but you don't have to be worried about hitting 500 words or anything like that. Again, one more time, this is Samantha Whitty. She'll be the one that will help the counselors out and be entering all of your students' transcript information and uploading all your transcripts. And then last but not least, second to last, where you can find this, if if you lose your handouts from tonight or have questions you want to come back to, again, our counseling website under the financial aid and scholarships, we do have a Dollars for Scholars section, and that will then link to the foundation's page directly, so you can get all that information from the foundation. And then so lastly, those dates again. January 7th is the open date for the application, part of the part 2 of Dollars for Scholars. February 7th is the scholarship deadline. I tell my students, cross off that 7 and put a 3 or a 2. Please do not wait until the last minute and pretend like it, it's the 8th because you're going to miss it. That is a hard deadline. So that's really important that students meet that deadline of February 7th. And so students do not need to wait until now. Or wait until then. That's why you guys are here now to start that profile, that first step. And so if you have questions at any point, students, please come down to the counseling office. You can reach out to Miss Samantha Whitty. If we don't know the answer, we'll make sure that we reach out to the foundation to get the answer for you. So please just be working on this over the next few weeks, so that way when January 7th comes, you've done a whole chunk of the work already, and then you can really focus on applying to those scholarships. So I know that was a whirlwind, but the resources you do have with you, and it's a nice guide to walk you through those. And students, please reach out to your counselor if you do have any questions. So, with that said, does anybody have any questions before we kind of turn it over to you guys to start working on your profile?
You might have already covered it, I'm sorry if I missed it, but I know you said that a student can establish a profile long before. Can you actually see the scholarship, get into the scholarship application itself prior and then not hit it until the 7th, or?
So the way the process works is at this point you can build the profile, so you can plug in all that information. But the actual scholarships, you won't see that listing quite yet. That's actually what goes active in January.
Okay.
And actually, just to give you a little bit of overview about the foundation, just because I think it's important. The Southern New York County School District Foundation is a separate entity from the school district. We work very closely together, some of our staff members or directors, but it is a separate entity, so all the scholarship money, none of it is school district funds, that's all separate. So all that's through fundraising that we do. So each year we give out about 145 scholarships to, it ranges from 85 to about 95 students. So generally you have a very good chance of getting at least one scholarship, good chance of getting multiples. The minimum scholarship is 500 and that goes all the way up to 8,000. So I just thought I would throw that out there. One other quick thing is this profile significantly impacts your child's ability to receive a scholarship. The reason why I say that is because all those different sections, this is kind of the secret sauce behind how the application process works. Let's just say you fill out your work experience. Depending on how many hours you worked, and there's some other factors, a point value gets assigned for work history. A point value gets assigned for the different essays that you write. A point value is assigned for extracurricular activities. So that's why it's important to fully fill out the profile. So even if you volunteered with your church or you volunteered at the library, all those are things that you could include in your profile to help build that profile point value. One other thing real quick that we get asked a lot is financial need. A lot of our scholarships are financial need. I think there's a little bit of a misconception with financial need. There's two flavors of financial need that we look at, and that is household wealth. And that's typically, I think, what most people think of when they think of financial need. The other piece of financial need that we look at attendance minus the family's expected contribution, what FAFSA thinks you could afford to pay, and then what is left over is financial need. So if you're going to if your child's going to an expensive school and you're of moderate wealth, you still have a good bit of financial need. So that's why I think it's a little, honestly, everyone should fill out financial need, and it doesn't take long, and generally everyone has financial need. Anything else?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you only apply for the ones that it matches you to?
Yes, so by filling out that profile piece that you can do now, that's what builds the system to match you to the criteria of the scholarship. So on the back end, if a scholarship has a criteria to be an education major or some other criteria, all that is matched. So when you're building the profile, make sure you pick the right major, and because that's an important component of getting matched to the right scholarships.
Just by doing this, you're not guaranteed anything, are you?
You are not. So that's also important to understand. While your likelihood is very good, your chances go up significantly if it is fully filled out because of that. Building the profiles volume significantly helps. So we as a foundation do not award scholarships solely based on like class rank or GPA. There's a lot that goes into the selection process for students. So some of them are for financial needs, some of them are for, we have one that's for a death of a parent. So, you know, if your child had a loss of a parent, then you would be eligible for that scholarship. So there's a lot of different scholarships, and those, I should say that the criteria for those scholarships are generally set by the donors. So for instance, that particular scholarship of the death of a parent was from a funeral home. So that's why they all tie in. The example of the left-handed scholarship, generally people want to give scholarships to folks that kind of reflect their experience, their values,
I was
So-
just asking the question, 'cause I did this before, and got nothing.
So just out of curiosity, what year was that?
3 years ago.
Okay.
I mean, he had work experience, he was an Eagle Scout, and had all this stuff. So I'm just curious how it's not guaranteed, but I mean,
Yeah, so the other thing that would significantly increase the likelihood of getting a scholarship would be applying to all the scholarships that you're matched to. And I'll be honest, sometimes that we do see that students that have really great profiles don't apply to the scholarships that they would be a shoo-in if they had applied for. And that's tough for us because on the back, you know, when we're going through, since we see all the applications, which is anonymous, by the way, when it's all anonymized, so it pulls out names and all that stuff. So what we see is basically a number. But as we read through, we're like, wow, you know, that would really be, this scholarship would be terrific for this kid, but unfortunately, you know, they didn't apply to that scholarship. So applying to every scholarship that you get matched to is definitely a ticket to receiving them.
So the point system that you described, determined by your profile, that determines which scholarship opportunities you'd be matched to. It doesn't necessarily determine the award of the scholarship, or does it?
So the culmination of a profile score does have a significant impact on the awarding of that scholarship.
Okay.
And why that's important is because let's say that you're a valedictorian and you would, in the class rank portion of it, you would do pretty well in that scoring. But if you didn't fill out the unusual circumstances essay, if you didn't fill out the goals and aspirations essay, all those pieces would hurt your final score.
Understood.
Yeah, so that's why it's important to fill the entire application out. And just so you have an understanding of the process too, and this might be going way deeper than anyone wants to know. The way that we evaluate scholarships or applicants is each person on the team only looks at a particular piece of the profile. So for instance, one person only reads the goals and aspirations essays. So they don't weigh in on any of the rest of the profile, they're only looking at goals and aspirations. And the reason why we do that is so that since one person's doing it, it's fairly consistent versus if you have multiple people assigning values. Any other questions? I really do hope that those answers help give you an insight of how we go through the process, because I think it'll help you and your children figure out the best way to complete it.
Alrighty, so if we don't have any other questions, if students, you want to open up your Chromebook or any other computer that you brought, go to that link that's listed on that pink piece of paper, and then we will walk around and help you make sure that you are kind of following the steps of creating your profile and working through it.